Every single week, new comic books are released at comic book shops worldwide, and with the increasing number of indie comic book publishers out there, there's not a week that goes by that there isn't a new series out there begging for your attention and waiting for you to pick it up and discover it. Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to this new series called The 1's and 2's. What's up, everybody? Trinity here. Welcome back to Second Street. Smash that like button and let's get right into today's video in this new series that I am calling The 1's and 2's. Now, as I said at the very beginning of the video, there's not a week that goes by these days, especially with the increasing number of indie comic book publishers out there, that there's not a new series sitting there on the shelf waiting for you to pick it up. But are you brave enough to pick it up? Are you willing to risk that $3.99? Well, that's what we're going to go through and talk about in this new series, talking about all of those new series that are hitting the shelves of local comic book shops. And this week, I have 4 issues that I want to talk about. I've got 2 from Aftershock Comics, I've got 1 from AWA Upshot, and then 1 that is definitely my read of the week, coming out on Boom Studios Boombox imprint. Getting right into it, let's start right off with this issue number 2. This is on Aftershock Comics. This is called Knock 'em Dead, issue number 2. Now, issue number 1 obviously came out in December. Now, this book is published by Aftershock Comics, and it is being written by Elliot Rawl. The artist is Mattia Monaco, or is it Mattia Monaco. The colorist is Matt Milla, and the letterist is Taylor Esposito. I will show you those names right there so you can get a little bit better look at those. Now, this series, as I said, did start off back in December, and it's really about this guy who goes out. He's aspiring to be a stand-up comedian, and we can see that in his past, he's had kind of a tragic past. He's living with his sister, and you know, he's probably not in the most ideal situation, but maybe ideal for what he's wanting to do. Now, the story started off in that first issue where we were getting introduced to him, and we seen him going out on the stand-up circuit and doing some of these stand-ups at these different clubs to really very little audience reaction. Well, at least nothing more than booze. And one night, by a chance of fate, he goes out and has what he would consider one hell of a night when he got a couple of laughs in the crowd. He ended up getting a ride home from a stranger and got in a collision, and, well, he died, kind of. Anyway, here in issue number 2, we see them build on that story just a little more. We can see that his sister, who he lives with, who he is not really at odds with, but they've kind of had a little bit of issues. She ends up getting into kind of a predicament of her own, and by chance of this bad experience that she had, she decided to go out and support her brother in his quest to be a stand-up comedian at his very next gig. This book I thought was very good. Now I'll show you a little bit of the art in here that you can kind of expect. This is a good book to good page here to show you where you get some of this kind of darker art where he's there in his where he's dead, and then some of it here where he's there with his sister. I think the art on this book is very good. I think the colors in here match it as well. I mean, Aftershock, there's kind of an expectation out of an Aftershock book, and I think this meets every expectation that I expect when I pick up an Aftershock book. Now, this story itself, I've really enjoyed so far through these first 2 issues. Now, I will say that the writer, Elliot Rawl, he used to aspire to be a stand-up comedian as well, or he actually used to do stand-up as well. And, you know, to what level of success? Hey, I'm not going to confess to know. I know that it is a story that is near and dear to his heart because it's something that he's been saying on his social media accounts as well. So, hey, if you want to read a good book that's got that nice little horror twist to it, make sure that you go and check this out. Now, the one thing I will say about it is kind of talking about stand-up comedy, and you know, you might be asking yourself, well, is this book funny? Well, it doesn't really focus on the jokes and the comedy and him trying to do that so much as it is the story and everything else that's going on. So if you're wanting to buy this book for, stand-up comedy, to pick up a few lines, so you can tell your friends some funny jokes, that's not what this is. But I thought this book was very good throughout the first 2 issues. Can't wait to read the rest of this series. And again, Elliot Rahl is one of the writers. I've read several of his books here over the past couple years, doing a very good job, and that is happening here in Knock 'em Dead. Now, the next one I want to talk about is on Aftershock Comics as well. This one is Scout's Honor, issue number 1. Now, the thing here I want to say before I get into this is Aftershock Comics does a lot of this thing where on their number 1s they do this kind of heavier cardstock cover, but then they also charge $4.99 for the books. So it's, $1 more than your regular one. Now, I've got some videos I'm going to be doing here on the channel talking a little bit more about that, but I did do a live stream last week where I was talking about some of those things as well, where we can kind of see the, prices going up across, some of the publishers and everything, but not all the time. Now, Scout's Honor, this book is being written by David Pepose. Luca Casalanguida is the artist, Matt Milla is the color artist, and Carlos M. Manguel is the letterer. Andy Clark and Jose Villarrubia are on the cover here. I'll show you those names right there. You can get a little bit of look at some of that art there as well. Now, going on in this book, it's a post-apocalyptic tale in which there has obviously been this kind of nuclear fallout and nuclear war happened, and it's hundreds of years later. These people have been hidden in these bunkers just trying to survive, and we see it's been hundreds of years later they finally get the okay that the radiation levels have dropped and it is safe for them to once again go out into the world and try to live. Where they got food to live at for hundreds of years underground? Hey, I'm not going to confess to no, but maybe that goes into a little bit of this story here because, as I said, it's Scout's Honor, right? Now, the thing here is these guys have been living through these hundreds of years, and we see that it's pretty much all men, it's all boys, and they are living their lives by this Ranger Scout manual. And we here through this first issue, we kind of get a little bit of look into the Ranger Scouts and the history of them and how it pertains to the story going on here. Something very interesting. I thought was very good. Now, the thing in here is there's obviously a twist to it, and it's something that a whole lot of people might not like. I mean, maybe it's got that whole, girls in the Boy Scouts kind of thing. And that's totally not a spoiler, but it's kind of dealing with some of that because we do see that there are an overwhelming amount of males here, just men and boys. We don't really see any females in here. So some of that kind of stuff going on in here. Now, the other thing that I will say about Aftershock Comics, they've been doing this in some of their books when you get to the end here, is that they have these things here, and it's not all of their books, but some of them have like here, this thing right here where they have these things in here where they're going through, talking about the different merit badges and stuff. I know I've seen several of their other titles where they've done that as well. Like Dead Day, they just wrapped up a couple of, I think last month in December, they had some of that stuff in there, like a manual of how Dead Day worked. Seen a couple others where they do stuff like that. Just kind of cool little things to kind of expand and add to the story, I guess you could say. There's notes in this one under these merit badges for these Ranger Scouts that are pretty interesting, along with the notes and everything in it. Altogether, I thought Scout's Honor, it was a pretty decent read. Can't wait to read the rest of this series and see how it goes and, see how it progresses through this story and what's going on here. Now, some of the things in the setup and everything, I kind of picked up on. And here, let me show you guys a little bit more of the art in this book. I guess I only showed you some there at the very beginning. But let me get you, right here is this 2-page splash page where they got, they're kind of showing this world after it's seen the, this post-nuclear war fallout. So pretty cool stuff there. I'll show you a little bit more here, a little bit more of this art. Altogether, I thought this book was pretty good. Like I said, I have no complaints about it. Can't wait to read that and see how that one progresses till the end of the story. And Aftershock Comics is one of my favorite publishers anyway. They've got this, like I said, I've got an expectation of their stories. They do this great kind of thriller, kind of horror stuff with their books. Very good stuff going on over there at Aftershock Comics. Now, the next one I want to talk about is from one of my favorite publishers coming out of 2020. This publisher, AWA Upshot, came out in the midst of the pandemic last year, at the very beginning of the year in March, before everything went into lockdown and before Diamond stopped distributing books for, a couple of months. They launched a series of new titles, and this week we've got an expansion on one of those, and this is the Resistance Reborn. This is a one-shot issue. Now, I will say this book is only $3.99, and I will say that you probably can't tell it here, but it is quite thick. Now, this book is only a one-shot, and it expands on the story of the Resistance, which was Volume 1 is kind of what kicked off the whole shared universe of the AWA Upshot universe. And it's written by J. Michael Straczynski. The art in this book is by C.P. Smith, and the colorist is Snakebite Cortez. The letterer in here is... Ooh, why did I forget the letterer? The letterer on this book here as well is And World Design. The cover artist is Raza for the regular cover, and here I've got the Mike Deodato cover variant, along with Lee Lowridge doing the colors on this. Now, as I said, this book does expand upon, and it's only a one-shot, expands upon the stories, some of these characters that we met in the Resistance book, which is, I don't know, I guess you could compare it to somewhat like the X-Men. It's somewhat like that, where a bunch of these people ended up getting powers after they survived a pandemic that swept the world and killed millions of people. I know, it almost sounds a little on the nose, right? I thought the book was very good. It's dealing with these kind of superheroes that are getting these powers, as well as, how would you say, the power structures, political structures, and things like that within this book. I thought this book was very good. If you like stuff like the Inhumans, the X-Men, and stuff like that over on Marvel Comics, you are almost guaranteed to enjoy this story. And I'll tell you, the one thing I definitely like about it is the fact that it's a new universe, it's their own thing, so it's kind of open for them to do whatever they would like to with it. Now, the other thing I will say about this book, and it's not really a complaint, because the one thing I do like about it is, and I was hearing my man Wayne over at ReeferMan Reviews talking about this, is, and because I was mentioning this in a live stream too, is a lot of this stuff, while it is only $3.99, we get a lot of this, these big pages where there's only 2 panels on, maybe 3 panels on some of them as well. And we get some of these pages with, some extra space in them. That's not necessarily a bad thing. And take a look at some of that. Take a look at some of that C.P. Smith art. Now, C.P. Smith and Snakebite Cortez actually did the art on Archangel 8, which was one of the first series that they launched as well on AWA Upshot, that was being written by Michael Morisi. Very good writer. I enjoyed that series as well. And it was nice to see the art in this book. It's a little change up from what we got in the Resistance first series. And I believe the art on that was actually done by Mike Deodato Jr. as well. I could be wrong there, but I believe it was. The Resistance Reborn, it's like, I think it's like 5 chapters in this book. It's basically a series of a little anthology, if you will, of these one-shots books of, what do we got? 5 of them. The Mad, the Dangerous, the Hidden, the Lost, and the Transcendent. You can see all of those right over here, as well as a little letter from J. Michael Straczynski as well, the writer, and I guess you could say the person who created this expanding world in AWA Upshot, this shared universe over there that they are doing with all of the titles. Not necessarily all of them, but I believe most of the titles. AWA Upshot doing a phenomenal job. Again, one of my favorite publishers from last year. Like I said, they launched amidst the pandemic and showed that you can grow a following and an audience and be successful. I'm considering the comic book landscape and everything these days, right? Oh, right. The last book that I'm going to be talking about here today is definitely my read of the week. If there's a book that you're wanting to go read, say there's one comic book that you had to go out there and buy this week, this is the one I would definitely tell you to go out there and get. This is on Boom Studios. It's on their Boombox imprint, and this is The Last Witch, issue number 1. Now, this book And you know what? And Boom Studios, they put out some nice books as well. A lot of times the covers are a little bit thicker, and you know, the pages that they print on, the weight of the paper and everything seems to be a little bit nicer, a little bit higher quality. And that's something that you want when you're spending your hard-earned dollars. But this book, The Last Witch here, is being written by Conor McCreary. It's illustrated by VV Glass, colored by Natalia Nestorenko, and lettered by the hard-working Jim Campbell. Now, this variant cover I've got here is by George Corona, and I'll show you that cover again right there. Now, I will tell you, this is, obviously, you can see, look at the back there, you can tell it's going to be kind of Celtic. You can see all the Celtic knots and everything there. I thought this book was very good. Definitely family friendly, good for your kids. Is it YA? Absolutely not, but definitely great for younger audiences. What we see here is there's this young girl back in the day. I mean, it's kind of a fantasy tale. We see her out with her friend as they are out in the forest, you know, just not necessarily getting into trouble, but they're somewhere they're not supposed to be, going into the woods during these certain times of the year and stuff like that. They kind of expand on that story a little bit in this book. We can see that she ends up getting in some trouble. She gets grounded, but you know how kids are when they get grounded. They don't really stick to any of that stuff, do they? Well, she ends up going out on a little adventure while she's supposed to be sitting at home watching her brother. But to no surprise, her brother ends up coming out with her as well on this little adventure. And I'm telling you, by the end of this book, it really grabbed me in and makes me want to read this. The writing is good, the way the characters were introduced, and just everything going into this. It was very, I don't know, it was kind of heartwarming, kind of heart-touching. I thought it was very, very good, and some of that is through the art as well. Very, very good stuff here. Like you can see the main character here with her brother, kind of the looks on their faces and stuff like that. Just stuff that I think is very, very good. Like I said, this is one of those books this week. I was looking forward to reading this book when it came out, but I wasn't sure how much. I mean, it kind of sounds like it's a little bit more of a kid's tale. It's a fantasy as well. I was kind of questioning it, but I read this book and I absolutely love it. And this is definitely my pick of the week. But I want to know from you, have you read any of these books? Have you read Last Witch, my pick of the week? Have you read Knock 'em Dead? Have you read Scout's Honor? Or have you read the Resistance Reborns, or even the original series? Let me know all of those thoughts, let me know those answers and all of your thoughts down in the comments below. I would love to hear from you. That's all we have for today's video, folks. Thank you so much for tuning into the Second Street Marvel. If you're not already, please make sure you're subscribed, click the little bell and all of that good stuff, and make sure that you are subscribed, and make sure that you're here next week for the 1's and 2's, because we have a bunch of great titles that we're going to be talking about next week. Like we've got Blade Runner 2029 coming out. We've got another one on AWA Upshot Studios coming out as well. That is Erratic issue number 2, one of my favorite titles that they launched last year. As well as we've also got a couple of other series coming out as well that I cannot wait to talk to you guys about next week. So make sure you're subscribed, and we'll see you in the next video. Later.